Bueno, muy buenos días a todos. Muchísimas gracias a los participantes que tenemos al momento, siendo las 11:01 de la mañana. El día de hoy estamos acá presentes para una nueva versión del Viernes de Soluciones Sostenibles. Este es un evento que hacemos semanalmente por parte del Consejo Colombiano de Construcción Sostenible y que lo que queremos es presentar diferentes temas en torno a la construcción sostenible con el fin de que ustedes puedan reforzar conocimientos, generen acá como unos espacios también de relacionamiento y demás con los diferentes actores y empresas que invitamos semanalmente a este espacio de una hora. Entonces, ya para dar inicio a este viernes de soluciones sostenibles, comentarles que el día de hoy nos acompaña Graham Devlin. Él es coordinador de nuevos productos y operaciones en Bionova. La presentación, como bien ustedes pues pudieron observar en la pieza publicitaria de nuestras redes y correo electrónico, será en inglés. De todas maneras, pues la presentación que él proyectará tiene algunos slides en español. Por esto, les quiero pedir que si hay alguna duda de parte de ustedes al final de la presentación, me puedan dejar en el cajón de preguntas de la plataforma su pregunta en inglés, ¿sí? Con el fin de que la conversación pues sea mucho más fluida y que Graham pues pueda responder de manera pues mucho mejor la pregunta. Si de pronto no hay preguntas el día de hoy, pues estaremos recibiéndolas en cualquier momento en el correo pues del Consejo Colombiano de Construcción Sostenible y le daremos respuesta pues ya sea nosotros desde el Consejo o se las haremos llegar a Graham en cualquier momento. ¿Listo? Entonces voy a hacer una breve introducción de esta plataforma. Voy a quitar un momento mi cámara web. Listo. Entonces, el viernes de soluciones sostenibles del día de hoy tiene como título One Click LCA Planetary, que es una plataforma que nos va a ayudar para el análisis de ciclo de vida y lanzamiento, de ciclo de vida, perdón, y el lanzamiento oficial hoy de la plataforma Planetary. Todo esto surgió de una alianza que tenemos con esta entidad en cabeza de Graham y que ya hemos venido pues trabajando y teniendo muchas conversaciones desde finales del año pasado. Entonces, pues tenemos nuevamente el gusto de presentarles esta herramienta y que ya está disponible de manera gratuita en el país gracias a esta alianza que les comento entre Bionova y el Consejo Colombiano de Construcción Sostenible. One Click LCA Planetary es un software global y gratuito desarrollado por Bionova que ayuda a los profesionales de la industria de la construcción a calcular y comparar los impactos del carbono embebido y la eficiencia ambiental de los materiales de construcción aplicados al diseño y construcción de edificios. Este software está disponible en 9 idiomas, incluido el idioma español, y cubre 10 categorías de materiales de construcción más representativas en temas de emisiones de carbono y de sostenibilidad en Colombia. Reducir el carbono embebido, como bien ustedes pues lo saben y lo hemos hablado ya en todo el discurso de parte del Consejo y sus miembros, es cada vez más importante a medida que las ciudades continúan creciendo, así como las emisiones globales de carbono y otros gases de efecto invernadero producto de las actividades constructivas. Y dada esta importancia, es que en su momento, hace unos 3 meses aproximadamente, logramos firmar esta importante alianza y poder lanzar esta herramienta gratuita en Colombia para abordar pues esta problemática mundial y que ustedes pues la puedan usar de manera correcta. Al final de esta presentación, cuando terminemos este viernes de soluciones sostenibles, ustedes se pueden dirigir a la página web del Consejo y en una de las pestañas principales van a poder ver más información de esta plataforma y pues la manera en que pueden ingresar e interactuar con la misma. ¿Listo? Entonces ya esta introducción, procedo a saludar a Graham. Hi Graham, welcome to this Viernes de Soluciones Sostenibles. For the CCCS and its member is an honor to have you there. After this introduction, I give you the role of presenter.
Okay, thank you.
So that you can project your screen and tell us about the platform. Okay?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Juan David.
Okay, Graham. Yes, I give you the role of presentation. Please present the screen.
Okay, hopefully you can see my screen now.
Okay, we can see you the screen.
Okay, brilliant. Yes, so hello and welcome to an introduction to one-click LCA Planetary. Thank you already for the introduction, Juan David. What one-click LCA Planetary is a free embodied carbon tool for everyone. Thank you for taking the time out today to join us. So why is it that we're all here today? Well, maybe or hopefully it's that we all share the same goal, that same mission to reduce the carbon footprint of our industry. We're all on the same journey to zero, and together we can achieve those goals. My name is Graham and I'm the operations coordinator for one-click LCA Planetary here at one-click LCA. The webinar will be for about 60 minutes, including time at the end for some question and answers. So if those questions come in Spanish, perhaps Juan David can help translate them for me. But if they come in English, that would be much easier for me. So thank you for that. But let's get started with the presentation itself. Our agenda today begins with answering the questions, what is embodied carbon and why it matters? I'll then talk a little bit about our company before moving on to discuss the features of one-click LCA Planetary. Next, we'll have a live demonstration of the software, and we'll cover some of the use cases and applications for Planetary. We may have some people attending from outside Colombia, so I'll mention the countries of availability with our current partners and how we can and will extend to new countries and partners. And next I'll cover the difference between Planetary and paid versions of one-click LCA, if anybody is familiar with the commercial tools. And then time permitting, we'll have Q&A session to wrap things up. So what is embodied carbon? Essentially, it's the carbon footprint from the whole life cycle of materials. A building will require materials to be extracted, transported to the place of manufacturing, and then manufactured. Then they'll also be transported to the building, installed into the building, and all of this happens before the building is actually taken into use. And that's basically the upfront embodied carbon emissions. But during the lifetime of the building, those same materials will require repair, maintenance, replacement, and everything that gets taken out needs to be disassembled and then disposed of in the appropriate manner. Also, the whole building itself may need to be deconstructed or demolished at the end of its useful life cycle. All of these processes to do with materials are embodied carbon, whether they happen in the beginning or up front, during the use, or at the end of life stage, they are embodied carbon. Operational carbon is understood by the World Green Building Council definition as the energy use carbon. And according to some other definitions, it's also the operating water use and its carbon emissions. But today we're discussing embodied carbon, and in particular the upfront part, as it's related to the materials manufacturing phase. And why does reducing embodied carbon matter? Well, cities are growing really rapidly by 230 billion square meters by 2060. the whole global building stock is going to be doubled by the growth of buildings in cities. A lot of buildings will be demolished to make way for new, larger developments, for more residents, more businesses, more services. And just from new construction, it's estimated that will generate in excess of 100 gigatons of embodied carbon, which is equal to 3 years of global energy carbon emissions. And if we add on top of that renovations, infrastructure, and all the construction site processes, that number more than doubles to approximately 230 gigatons. So today we're going to focus on new buildings, where that ballpark figure of 100 gigatons of embodied carbon is the problem that we're trying to solve with one-click LCA Planetary. Going a little bit deeper into this, where is the focus on new buildings in particular? And it's on top construction materials. The top 3 construction materials alone, so that's cement, steel, and aluminium, they alone cause 11% of all global carbon emissions. One-click LCA Planetary covers the top 10 groups of construction materials, so the biggest emission sources are accounted for. And it allows for comparing designs made from different materials and not just steel and cement. With those staggering statistics about the growth of cities and construction materials emissions in mind, we as an industry need to make better decisions earlier. We know that early decisions have the highest impact and the lowest cost, and zero cost of changes. And one-click LCA Planetary can be used in the early stages of a project, but it's not, specifically speaking, a concept design tool. We have other tools for those purposes. So one-click LCA Planetary is more for doing design comparisons when you have an idea of what you might be building, and then doing comparison of design options, product specification options, and comparing design emissions and as-built emissions, for example. So it's not a solution at the earliest concept or client brief phase, as you typically wouldn't have quantities of materials at that point, which are required to use the tool. However, it can be used from the early design to as-built phases of a project. And that early design phase is critical in terms of material selection and material efficiency. And one last important point about embodied carbon. So in pretty much most countries, including Colombia and other countries around the world, we have some form of regulatory climate undertakings where you'll likely have tax-based policy or other policy-based mechanisms to decarbonize your energy sector. Here in Europe, that happens through the emissions trading system, which guarantees that emissions from the covered sectors go down. But what about materials? If you consider that embodied carbon emissions happen for the upfront part right now, today, they will not be reversible. They cannot be reduced after they have been emitted. Depending on the building shape, where and how you build it, and many other factors, the ballpark figure is typically from 300 to 700 kilos of embodied carbon per square meter. And this will be the dominant carbon source in a decarbonizing energy grid, because government actions on the energy supply will drive down operating energy emissions. This, of course, will look differently depending on local energy mixes in different countries and government strategies. However, the similarities exist in a number of regions. And this is also accentuated by the energy efficiency requirements for new buildings, which are also limiting the end demand for operating energy in buildings. So we know that embodied carbon is important. It's something that we can reduce right now, which has a significant impact on the global climate objectives. Then the question is, what do we do about it? Before we go to One-Click LCA Planetary, I'll just give a brief introduction to One-Click LCA as a platform so that you can get an overview of what we do. So One-Click LCA is a program that allows you to reduce cost, carbon, and materials use in construction and fit-out projects globally. It's the world's #1 building LCA software used in over 100 countries. It supports more than 40 certifications and includes over 90,000 LCA datasets. The software plugs into 10 different design software and is backed by over 30 in-house experts. Those experts are located in our headquarters in Finland, also in the UK, in France, Brazil, India. I think even more countries now that there's a lot of remote working going on these days, and we are comprised of around 17, I think maybe more than that now, different nationalities. The company was founded almost 20 years ago, and we've been doing life cycle assessment software for the past decade. Most commonly, we're known for our tools for builders and designers, but we're equally providing manufacturers with software for carbon accounting, for product LCAs or EPDs, as well as solutions for owners to manage and report their portfolio performance, and greenhouse gas reporting for companies. And we help this whole value chain communicate with each other, share data, and set targets for each other. When you're a manufacturer working with us, we provide you with a way to get your data in front of designers. When you're a designer working with us, we provide you with a way to get that data from manufacturers. And if you're an investor working with us, we provide you with a way to pull them all together, so you have a holistic understanding of what's happening in your portfolio, who and what is driving those impacts, and you can choose which manufacturers you should be working with to reduce them further, for example. We also offer training, consultancy, and custom tools, as well as working on high impact policy research. So we're helping engineers and architects, manufacturers and construction companies, investors, institutes and governments, all to tackle the carbon circularity issues they have in their building stock. So we serve almost all segments of the construction trade, and we serve them with different tools. Overall, our strategy really is, the reason why we're here is to decarbonize the construction sector, starting at the top, to shape the business environment. We aim to do that by enabling the development of climate positive facilities as standard for tenants, by conducting policy work and report publishing to facilitate carbon regulation, and by helping investors to add carbon priced investments to their portfolios. And this all allows us to help the market to create an environment where builders and designers can develop projects with large scale regenerative or zero carbon objectives. And this in turn provides new business opportunities, for example, for manufacturers for decarbonized and circular products. We have EPDs from all over the world. It would be safe to say that over 95% of EPDs in the world are in our database, and we're updating them constantly. There's a chance that very newly published EPDs are not yet included, or that we have rejected an EPD for quality issues. And when we integrate EPDs, we independently perform checks on the data to ensure that it meets our requirements. And if it doesn't go in. We have a quality audit process in place to verify the data, and we use metadata to enhance that data so it can be used in a consistent and robust manner for additional calculations. As well as EPD data, we also provide generic data sets localized for the whole world. If you want to see all the databases we integrate, you can visit the link to our FAQ page that's shown on the screen there. The reason I'm mentioning about this, and then if we take a look at the one-click LCA database expansion in practice, in 2020, we added on average around 250 datasets every week. So that's more than some other tools on the market have in their entire database, albeit that our database is global than just for a single market. However, it does add up. Now, as we approach the middle of March 2021, we've already added more than 6,000 datasets for this year. So why I'm mentioning it today is because we use the same database to deliver one-click LCA Planetary. And with that, let's move on to discuss the tool itself. So as I mentioned, we've been promoting low carbon design for over a decade, and while advanced economies like Scandinavia, France, in the UK and the Netherlands, for example, they're already heavily engaged in sustainable design, we haven't been able to achieve scale. And with one-click LCA Planetary, we're hoping to change that. It's a free tool that helps everyone decarbonize their materials design. It's focused on carbon-intensive materials, and it allows comparing and optimizing design options and choosing the lowest carbon options. Specifically, what it does is calculate cradle-to-gate embodied carbon impacts and material efficiency of the 10 most carbon-intensive material categories. So when we say cradle-to-gate, we're talking about life cycle stages A1 to A3. So the supply of raw materials, their transportation, and the manufacturing process. And the material categories that are included are ready-mix and precast concrete, cement, steel, aluminium, bricks, glass, insulation, wood, and gypsum. So it doesn't have everything. There's no building systems or finishes, paint, etc. Just the top 10 most carbon intensive materials. It's the simplest scope that you could have, which also means it's the easiest to adopt at scale. And that's exactly what we want to achieve. It's available in 9 languages, including Spanish, and in 33 partner countries. One of the key features we mentioned is to compare embodied carbon and the material efficiency of designs and design versus as-built design, for example. So you can use a more classical design as a baseline, shown in the illustration here in blue, and compare it with a more circular option in orange. You can compare the structural solutions and the different material solutions. Although this is for illustrative purposes only, the graph on the right, we can see that the circular building reduced its CO2 by 17% by increasing the use of wood and reducing concrete and steel, as an example. Another key feature is to identify hotspots and choose low carbon product types, specifications, and manufacturers. So you can use it to find the optimal balance between materials like concrete, steel, and wood. And you can use it to choose the optimal specification to meet the objectives for your project. It also helps you to pick the best products and manufacturers to deliver your project while limiting the carbon impacts. And as you can see here, the results are given in carbon impacts and mass of materials. And we did it like this because understanding materials efficiency is key to unlocking carbon reductions. You can't just specify low carbon products without also first only using the amount of materials that you need to use. And this is how the results table in one-click LCA Planetary looks. So you have materials categories down the left-hand side, and across the top you see the global warming impacts as tons, the global warming impacts as kilos of CO2 per meter squared, the mass of raw materials as tons, and the mass of raw materials as kilos per meter squared. If you don't use a particular materials category in your project, for example here precast concrete, you can hide those empty rows on the right hand side. And the grand total for your design is given down at the bottom. These results can be downloaded in a PDF report, which also gives you an overview of the total embodied carbon of your building designs. Here we can immediately see the embodied carbon impacts of your project design in kilos of CO2 per meter squared, the social cost of carbon, which you can set in the tool, and the CO2 in tons. Also displayed are real-life equivalents to the amount of embodied carbon in your design, such as the equal number of return flights from the UK to Australia, or even the amount of loads of laundry. An embodied carbon benchmark, this colorful chart on the left, allows comparison with a global benchmark building using ranges of kilos of CO2 per meter squared. The Planetary report also gives the global warming potential of your material types, as well as the specific materials that contribute the most embodied carbon for your design. And this allows you to identify those opportunities for optimizing your material selection, so you can find and specify the most sustainable materials and products for your project. I mentioned about pinpointing hot spots in the elements of your building design, where the greatest potential for carbon savings may be. So in this example graph, we can easily identify vertical structures and facade as the building part with the most emissions, and ready-mix concrete being the material contributing the lion's share of those emissions. As I mentioned, the EPDs in Planetary are the same data sets that are in one-click LCA commercial versions, but there are some important limitations. So first, the EPD has to be in one of the covered categories, and second, it has to be from that market where the product is available. So Planetary provides local and/or regional and generic databases, whereas the paid versions of one-click LCA include global data sets and any that are licensed for the fee. In Planetary, you can also make requests for EPDs to manufacturers. So utilizing this feature does require you to have an organization account set up, which is free and only takes a few clicks. If you've got time during the demo, I can show how that works. We do it like this so that the manufacturer can see that these requests are coming from genuinely interested parties, and then they can decide whether to create an EPD. In the form shown here, you can fill out the country, product type, manufacturer name, and a short description of your request. And if there are any matching EPDs in the system, they'll be shown so as not to send requests for already available data. If not, you can continue to provide an estimate of quantity of material needed for your project, some other technical requirements for the EPD, and you do also need the email address of the manufacturer to send the request. The manufacturer will then receive an email similar to this, outlining what has been asked and by who, and they can click the button to view the request details. There's also a link to some information on why they're being asked for an EPD. And that way you don't have to explain it each time, and the manufacturer has access to high quality background information on why EPDs matter. And here are the details the manufacturer will see. They can then choose to work with us or our pre-verified EPD generator tool to create an EPD if they wish. They're of course not obliged to do so. However, the option is there for them if they need a cost and time efficient way to create EPDs. And we have seen manufacturers respond to these requests, so it can help. If there are any people in the webinar today that represent the manufacturer who's interested in EPDs or has questions about creating them, please feel free to get in touch with us and we'd be happy to help with that. There's currently an offer there at the moment if somebody is interested to take that up. The link to our website is on the screen. So that was an introduction to One-Click LCA Planetary, and we can now have a live demo of how the software works. I'll first quickly show a couple of more slides on how to register for an account if you haven't already. So you can visit oneclicklca.com and click free trial in the top right hand corner, and then you'll be presented with this short registration form to add your name, email, country, etc. At the bottom there's an option to sign up for a newsletter, which I recommend doing if you want to stay on top of the latest news and events, webinars, things like that. And there's also a link to our service terms, and then you can simply click register. You'll be sent an activation link then by email, which you need to click within 24 hours. And here you'll be asked to confirm your settings. Language, you can choose Spanish as I mentioned, the unit system, any regional settings. And after clicking next, you'll have this pop-up in the bottom of the slide here, and that asks you, first you'll get the pop-up that asks you to confirm your email address, and then you'll have this option here to click use One-Click LCA Planetary, and then you are ready to go. So hopefully now when I change to go to the software, you'll still be able to see my screen. And if not, perhaps Juan David can confirm to me if it's still showing. Yes, it looks like it is. So you can see here that I already have a demo project set up. It's for an office building in Colombia. Just gonna double check in the chat to make sure that everybody can see the screen. Okay, no indication that you can't, so I will continue with the demonstration. So I have this project already set up, but I will just quickly show how you can create a project. So you saw on the previous slide that you click use One-Click LCA, and then you will just simply click start a free trial on the top, and Planetary project license available is there to choose. If you wanted to trial one of our other tools for buildings, there's trials available for here and also for infrastructure projects. But for the free software we're looking at today, you can simply click Planetary project like so. And it will ask for some mandatory fields and information. So the name of your project, what type of project it is. So everything from apartment buildings, educational, hospitals and healthcare, hotels, offices, all the way down to sports halls, transport buildings and warehouses. So you can choose that. Then choose the country. So you can go to Colombia. If you have and already know the address and gross floor area, number of floors, you can add it here, as well as frame type. If you don't have that information, you don't need to enter it, and it is it's not mandatory information in any case, so you don't need to put it, and you can fill it in at a later stage. If you want to add a image, just if you've got a lot of projects, you may want to just include an image to differentiate. You can do that here. And for added information, while Planetary doesn't currently support certifications like LEED or BREEAM, you can actually choose one from this drop-down menu if you are indeed interested in that. Additional information is optional. You can include it here if you want to. Otherwise, you can simply click Save and your new project will be started. So I'll just call this very quickly Test, and we'll choose apartment building. We've got Columbia there, and the rest are optional fields, and I'll just click Save. And now it's showing me here that I have this option to use one-click LCA Planetary in partnership with the Green Building Council of Columbia. Click use one-click LCA Planetary, and now I have a brand new test project that I can get started with. There's this hand showing here, which is letting us know what we might want to do next or how we can move forward. So it's asking us to create at least one design, and we can click Get Started. Of course, if you've chosen Spanish as your language, then this won't say Get Started, but something else. And when you want to create a design, you give the design a name as well. So you can call it Baseline Design as one of the pre-filled ones I've got here. Additional information is optional, and here you can choose the stage of your design. This will not have any impact on your calculations, but for your own information, you may want to choose this. I'll just leave the defaults as they are, and if you wish, you can change them, whether it's a renovation or so on. So I'll click OK. And now I can see that I've got this red, almost like a warning from the software to say input data. It's telling me there's missing data and I need to input it. So I click here and it's showing me where can I input the data, what's available to me. So the first few results, of course, this is a new design, so I've got nothing in here. There's nothing to see. And then building materials and building area is where we put our information for our project. I'll go to building area first because it's very simple. All we have to do here is from the drop down, choose the appropriate calculation for floor area, which is predetermined by your country. So here we're looking for gross internal floor area. So if I choose it, it gives me the option to add it here in meters squared. So let's just put 10,000, and you can add a comment here if you wish. In order to save, you can either hit enter or return on your keyboard or click save up here in the top corner. It's important to remember that the software doesn't auto save for you, so you do need to save periodically so you don't lose any of your inputs. Now, after building area, you can hear that my son is very excited about this demonstration in the background, so apologies for the interruption there. I'll move to building materials query. And this is where you enter in all your materials for the different elements of your building. I'll now go back to the demonstration design where I've got multiple entries so we can see a little bit more what an actual project looks like, just in the interest of time. So I'll go back to the Columbia office. So you can see already I've got some information populated here, but I'll just scroll down to our building materials. So I've generated a design using one of our other tools called Carbon Designer, and populated these materials. You can also use some default data sets that we have available to populate your design, have a baseline to start working with. And here you can see I've got materials like ready mix concrete, reinforced steel, and some GPS insulation, and the quantities, units, and some comments about what each of those is. To add a material, you simply search it in this text box. You can use these filters across the top to limit the amount of results that you see. and then you use this. So I can type ready mix, for example. Then the software will see if we've got any matches for that keyword, and it gives us them in the different categories. So I can have ready mix in external walls and floors, foundations, high strength structures, and so on. So let's say we're looking for one for foundations. I click the green plus symbol, and now it's giving me the options here. The first options are local generic data. So this is generic data, and you can see the name for the particular resource, and the green question mark at the end, if you click on it, opens a data card where you can get some more background information on this, find out where this data point comes from. So it's a one-click LCA data point that we have created. This description tells you what this data point represents, so you can understand a bit better whether it's suitable for your project. Technical characteristics, so maybe some specification on the concrete density, so on. And then environmental profile, which is of utmost importance. So what is the global warming potential of this particular material? So these data cards can help you understand whether this is the suitable choice for you or not. I'll close that for now. After generic data, you will see also any manufacturer specific data. So I'll just click on this green question mark to show you. So this here we have a ready mix concrete that actually is an EPD rather than generic data from Cementos Bio. And you can look at the same kinds of data, background information. You can see which EPD program here, International EPD System, description, what the product is, technical characteristics, and environmental profile as well. So this will help you choose your materials. Once you've chosen the material, then you can enter the quantities and so on. There are some features here where you can copy a resource. So copy like so, and it gets duplicated. You can then equally just delete it. You can split or replace rather resources here. So if you want to do some optioneering or comparing some designs, you can, for example, click replace here, and it will show me what I chose on the left hand side, and then I can search for a different kind of rebar on the right hand side. So previously I had this 80% recycled content. Perhaps in this project we want to use 90 or 97% recycled content, and if I select it, it will open up the data card. We can check the environmental profile of both side by side. So you can see here GWP, or global warming potential, is 0.92 kilos, whereas on this side we've got 0.5. So not quite half, but quite a big reduction if we use more recycled content. So you can click save, and the software will automatically change that for us. And you'll get the update in your results as well. So that's how you can enter in materials and maybe make some changes to them. If I then go to the results page for this particular design, you'll see the table that we looked at earlier on. I click hide empty, so it's a bit more tidy. And also most contributing materials we saw on the slides, which are the materials that have the highest impact in this particular project is given here. And there's a number of graphs as well. And in the top right hand corner where it says more actions, has the Planetary report. And you simply click there and you can download the PDF report, circulate it to your project team or whoever might be interested to see that. I'll just quickly go back to our project page and show you how you can copy the designs to do some optioneering. So here, if I click baseline design and just click copy, here I've got copy of baseline design, or maybe you can call it like optimized design, something like that. Leave the defaults as they are and click add. The software will then basically just copy the same design. So they've got exactly the same results right now, But of course, then you can go in and start making changes to the materials, maybe using materials that are more recycled content, or you had more concrete before and you start using more wood or something like that. And then you can use the graphs here. If I go to all graphs, you can compare the two designs side by side based on GWP alone, or here they're broken out based on the different kinds of material categories and so on and so forth. So a really quick way to compare different kinds of designs, whether they be at different stages of the project or at the beginning when you're deciding what way to take with your materials and your design. I mentioned about being able to create a company account. I've got one created here, but how you do it is simply here, and this is where you can change some general information like the social cost of carbon. So it's auto set as 50, but of course you can change that to whatever you choose yourself. Conscious of the time at the moment, so I won't spend too much more time on this, but we do have a help center that has some articles and get started videos to help with starting your first design and how you can choose materials and so on. So I'll move back to the presentation so we have enough time for questions. So there can be quite a range of use cases for one-click LCA Planetary. And our main goal is for all stakeholders in the industry to want to invest in, design, and build materials and carbon efficient structures and solutions. And the one motivation for that could be that you have transparency requirements from an investor, a bank, or a potential buyer, something that's becoming more and more prevalent in today's market. Maybe you're an architect or a designer that just wants to do low carbon design, whether or not you're being paid for it, and Planetary can help you with that. Besides design, you can use it for specification. So you can use the available EPD library to choose the lowest carbon products for your projects. And also, if you're top of the construction supply chain, like a construction management company, you can use it to require your supply chain to provide you data and develop their capability to respond to you with low carbon solutions, because working together with your supply chain will increase your opportunity to significantly decrease your carbon impacts. The use cases that were just mentioned, they're certainly not exhaustive and just some ideas for its application. There is a policy document that can give you more ideas on how you might use one-click LCA Planetary. It's called the City Policy Framework for Dramatically Reducing Embodied Carbon, and it was developed by ourselves and the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance in cooperation with Architecture 2030. It's available for free at www.embodiedcarbonpolicies.com, so please feel free to download it. And we also published an article on how Planetary can help with 9 of those policies, which you can find on our website. I can actually share the link as well. Let's put that here. If perhaps Juan David can share that with everybody. So now I'll talk a little bit very quickly about its availability. So it's available in 33 countries with Planetary partners. Countries with partners like Colombia have the benefit of having local and or regional EPDs available to them. So we saw one particular resource that was an actual EPD. The tool is available in countries without partners in the form of a global tool, but the global tool only has generic data sets. So you can make use of any regional EPDs from Latin America that are in the software. We are still looking to add partner organizations that are committed to promoting low carbon design and construction, and that they're ready and willing and able to deliver training and promotion in the above subject, webinars such as this, and that have a form of national coverage and an ability to reach a significant portion of the market. And finally, who really see a potential to change the market much more quickly with this cooperation. So if you are from a country that doesn't have a Planetary partner, we would love to have you join us, of course. So if you represent or know an organization in your country that would be interested, please feel free to get in touch with us. And if Planetary, if you're in Colombia or another country where Planetary is, please help us spread the word so we can reach the kind of scale that's really needed to decarbonize the industry. And I'll very quickly also just go through the difference between paid versions and our free version, one-click LCA Planetary. So this short summary table shows the main differences. So just to remind that Planetary has a simple scope, so it can be used by hundreds of thousands of construction professionals who don't necessarily have or need any prerequisite knowledge of LCA modeling. So it's limited to global warming potential, the manufacturing phase of A1 to A3. It doesn't have compliance with any certification or standard, and it doesn't have BIM integrations. It does have the 10 most important material categories, but it excludes databases that are licensed for a fee. The functionality is quite intuitive or easy to use, as we saw, with a standard results report. And we have a help center for online self-support. One-click LCA commercial versions include any impact categories and life cycle stages. They do offer compliance with certifications and BIM integrations. The database is more extensive, as is the functionality, and there is more advanced reporting and professional support and training. Having said all that, if you don't need anything on the right-hand side, and Planetary is fit for your purpose, then please use it. It's free and it's there to be used. So if it can benefit you, and we certainly hope that it can, please take advantage of it. At this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I realize we've only about 6 minutes left. I don't know if Juan David plans to do any summary or wrap up, but if there are any questions, I would be happy to take them right now.
Thanks, Graham, for your complete and great presentation. Now we continue with the question section. So I see the question. We have one question from David Cortez. David Cortez asks, does Planetary allow comparison of life cycle cost between material options for my project?
It doesn't have life cycle costing options at the moment. It's only reporting on GWP, so global warming potential, and mass of materials, so the amount of materials used. So currently doesn't have anything for life cycle costing. If that is something that you're interested in, we do have a life cycle costing tool, just not in our free Planetary tool.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Not have other questions. Maybe, Graham, I will send you any question that our members or allies may have in the next few days. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. If any questions do follow, please feel free to forward them to me. You can also check out our help center for other questions or how to get started. And there is a community forum. It's a brand new forum. So if you want to ask a question there, you can feel welcome to do that too.
Okay, Graham. Also, I put the links in the chat for the participants.
Okay,
And
great.
now tell the participants, agradecerles también a los participantes el día de hoy. Esta es una herramienta que realmente nos alegra mucho poder presentarles. Como les dije, surge de una alianza que hicimos con Bionova y esperamos que sea de gran interés y ayuda para ustedes, ya sea como trabajadores independientes, trabajadores dentro de diferentes empresas del sector constructor. Ya para dar finalizado este viernes de soluciones sostenibles, recordarles que estaremos muy atentos a nuevas preguntas que nos envíen. Nosotros con mucho gusto o se las podemos responder internamente, como les comenté, o se las dirigiremos a Graham para que él nos dé la respectiva respuesta. Recordarles también que este es un espacio que tenemos siempre semanal. Cada viernes del año tendremos este espacio de 11 a 12. Invitarlos a estar muy pendientes de las redes del consejo, del correo, de los diferentes correos electrónicos que les pueda llegar y también que visiten nuestra página web y le puedan dar un vistazo a la oferta educativa que tenemos disponible, ¿no? Pues para nosotros es un gusto y como uno de los objetivos y pilares que tenemos desde el Consejo es poder capacitar cada vez más en estos temas. Y bueno, como le comenté a Graham, les dejé en el chat los respectivos enlaces para que puedan revisarlos, puedan empezar ya a interactuar y familiarizarse con la plataforma. Entonces, muchas gracias a todos por asistir. Graham, we end this Viernes de Soluciones Sostenibles. Thank you again for your presentation.
Muchas gracias. Have a good Friday and a weekend. Take care.
Thank you, Graham. Chao a todos, que estén muy bien.